Good evening, Zambia. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are joining us. Welcome to a special edition of TV Wakwetu. Somebody just asked, what is the song and who is the singer? It's called Nyangale by the Mulemena Boys. This is just going to be a very short one because we're waiting for the program at 21 hours by Masheki Akashambatwa with a punch for punch and today he's joined by Mr. Binwell Mpondo, who's the MP for Kana Central, Kana East, wherever he is. So this evening I'm just coming back to here. I've just somebody's put a message up. We need to hear from Dr. Honorable Alex Katakwe. So Dr. Katakwe will be back on the program next week because today there was a little bit of technical difficulties and he was not in a very secure area network wise, so he will be in a better area next time and he's coming back next week. So watch out for that next week at 20 hours Zambian time. This evening I've just come to talk about something that is very important for a country. Of course, we elect people to come into power. We elect people to come into political offices to facilitate the changes that we need in our country. However, so much of what we do, I find, we think that responsibility lies with somebody else. As a country, we have to get out of the mindset where somebody has to change everything for us. We have to have a mindset to say we are going to change ourselves. We're going to take part in the change that we want to see in our country. We want to take part in the change that we want to see in our country. Any significant changes that are ever going to happen in a country begins with we, the people. The moment we, the people, say we're not going to tolerate corruption, begins with us. The moment we, the people, say we can't just have our children learning in classes with fewer desks or sitting on the floor. We, the people, when we reach a point where we say we've had enough of living the way that we live, change begins to happen. A lot of times change is slow because we, the people, are not really fed up with the way that we're living. I know it sounds a little bit harsh. A friend of mine is involved in a program. It's quite an interesting one because where we live, I realized that there were a lot of young people that were involved in knife crimes. Whereas so many people sat back and complained about it, he went out and he did something and created a charity that he was able to do something and reduced. And he reduced the knife crime that was happening in an area. He was not in police. He was not in the police. He wasn't a teacher. He didn't have a lot of money. He didn't have a lot of people who backed him. He just said, you know what, this is enough. I need to do something about what is going on. And the more we have people who say, I need to do something, the more things are going to get done. The more we have people sit back and say, let's see who's going to change it for me, the slower things are going to be. Because as long as I've got a job, then it's not a it's not a responsibility of mine. As long as I've got this and the other, is not a responsibility of mine. What about our children? What are we leaving behind? What legacy are we leaving for our children? What changes do we want to be in place in next 10, 20 years time? I always think that in our political landscape, we talk about the same things over and over again. We talk about the same things over and over again after every government. And when we talk about the changes that we've been wanting in the change of the government that we've had over the years, the things that we want to change have been the same. The conversation has just been about poverty. And we've let other things deteriorate. We've let other things just waste away. No sports facilities for children. Remember when I was growing up, right? The area I grew up in a place called Yarrow Avenue in Luansha. That place had two play parks for children. We had one, and fast forward that in the 1990s, but fast forward into 2000s, late 1990s, one of them, they started planting sweet potatoes in there. Very soon, people decide, well, if somebody can plant in that one, we can plant in that one there. They're gone. Those facilities started to go because as citizens, we didn't think that was our responsibility to look after those things. We have to reach a point where we say, I want to be proud of my country and I want to see good in my country. I want to see good in my community. I want to see development in my community. I want to see well-behaved young people in my community. I want to see young people going to school. You know, when I was growing up, I could not go to school, and my neighbors would say to my parents, your son didn't go to school. There was that responsibility that existed at that time. There was that responsibility that existed at the time. And we have to enhance that community spirit that we have as Zambians to say, what can we do? You know, most of the time we think about how can I benefit? How can me and my children benefit? How can me and my family benefit? And we think very little about how can we benefit as a community? How can we do something that will benefit the community? There's a quote by motivational speaker, the late great Zig Ziglar. He said, you can have everything in life you want if only you can help enough other people get what they want. When we go away from just thinking about me, and my family and the people around, to actually saying, let's see what we can do together as a community. Let's see what we can build together as a community. Let's see what we can do with the resources that we have, if we got enough resources. For some of you who follow me on Thursday Night Motivation, I gave an example of people who haven't got a vision and they get a lot of money. Somebody's got a vision. If you give them 2,000 kwacha, it's capital to build something. But for some people, you give them 2,000 kwacha, it's time to go partying. And then they go partying and they say, but the government is not doing what they're supposed to do. This is a thing. We see this, and when I talk to a lot of my African friends, we always talk about the same. People, when they talk about new government, they think about jobs in government. They don't think about the government creating a market where businesses can thrive. They think about jobs in government. And what you find is a lot of people become disillusioned with new governments because they're not getting jobs in the said government. So no matter how we can think about it, a government cannot employ all its citizens. Impossible. A government anywhere in the world cannot employ all its citizens. However, the government has got duty and the responsibility to create an environment where businesses can thrive. Because if businesses thrive, then opportunities for employment are created. We were supposed to have a program with Mr. Nkulimba. Unfortunately, our guests, the network was not great. And we've seen this money that's gone in a community development fund. 26.6 million every constituency. But you have to think, how many people are jumping at that? How many are there queues? Are people knocking those doors? Are people doing everything that they can do? And speaking to a lot of people in the constituencies, what they say, especially constituencies in places like the Copperbelt and Lusaka, is a lot of young people are just not taking that up. A lot of people are not taking that offer up. It's there. But a lot of people are not taking that offer up. But then they turn around and they will say, but there are no opportunities for jobs that you promised. The government can promise, and the government can promise a market where businesses will thrive and businesses can grow. But any government in the world, whether it's in Great Britain, whether it's in the United States of America, wherever you can think about, there's no government in this world that can afford to employ all its citizens. A government's duty is to create an environment where businesses will thrive, and so that when businesses thrive, job opportunities are created. And these are the things that we have to aim for. What is our market saying right now? What can I start in the current market, in the current Zambian business environment? What can I start that I can thrive in? You know, so many times we never even think about that. We never even think about. I'll give you an example. I was doing a job. I wanted a little bit more income, right? I wanted a bit more money than I was on. And I asked myself, what can I do? What can I do to make more income? What's out on the market? I probably thought, shall I buy a bit more shares? But that is a long-term project. I'm probably only going to see the value of it 10 years from now. Okay, I can invest that, but I'm not going to see that. But what can I do right now? I look at what other online coaches organization I can take part in. I look at, there was that market for that. I look at what other things were going on in my local area. Can I take part in that, in all of that? So I started going on a Saturday morning and taking part in that. I looked at the book that I have. Where can I sell my book? Where can I do that and the other? I started looking at what was in the market. I didn't turn around and say, what can the UK government do for me? I looked at what was going on in the market. I think in our country, we've got so many resources, but we're just not resourceful enough. We're simply just not resourceful enough. Sometimes because we're constantly thinking, who can do that for me? Who can do that? We never look at ourselves and say, I can do that and I will do that. That is a point we need to get in our lives, in our country, where we look around and we say, it's my responsibility. A lot of times what we find is people look around, look at each other and say, whose responsibility is it? Whose responsibility is it? We have to go away from that mindset that asks, whose responsibility is it, to what can I do? I think it was John F. Kennedy, one of America's most famous presidents, said something that was so important. Don't ask what the country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Unfortunately, in Zambia and in Africa, we got so many people just asking, what can the government do for us? Or how can I get into government so that I can I can have some of the resources that all these people in politics have? We have to kill that mindset. That mindset is what causes corruption, because I'm going to get into the government now. Now I'm in the government. Now I can have all the money. I can have all the money that I've always wanted. That's why you find a lot of politicians going to politics not to serve their people, but to serve themselves, to make as much money as they can. My dear friends, changing our country is every citizen's responsibility. The moment we see something wrong and we look the other way, we're not part of the solution. And if we're not part of the solution, what are we? We're part of the problem. When enough people say that is enough, things begin to change. And corruption in our country keeps going on and on and on and on because enough people have not said enough is enough. Because enough people have not said we're not going to deal with this anymore. Corruption still carries on in our country because its citizens keeps ignoring the corruption. Its citizens keep ignoring the corruption, and its citizens are still benefiting from corruption. Its citizens are looking away. It's our responsibility to say we're not going to accept corruption anymore. That the resources that every government has, let me tell you this, the resources that every government has is your money. Is your money. So when if you do anything to cut corners to get something from a government institution, you are stealing from your own. You're stealing from yourself. You're stealing from ourselves, and we've been doing this for years. There's an illusion. There's an illusion that all these European countries, America, and everyone comes to Africa and steal the money. Actually, what happens is we Africans take the money to them. Because we take all the money, we steal from our people, then what do? We hide them. Then everyone turns around. All these white people come to our country and steal our money. We send all our money to them. Remember, it's our responsibility. You know that child who did not finish school because they can't afford university or anything else. It's our responsibility, a collective duty. When a group of people say enough is enough, change happens. Let's not accept it. When we think about anything that needs to change, let's remember, change begins with you and me. Yes, the people are elected in power, but change begins with you and me. It always does, and it always has, and it always will. So change begins with you and me. So that was just my very short presentation this evening, because coming up next, we've got Punch for Punch with my big brother, Masheke Kashambatwa, who is going to be joined by Honorable Binwell Mpundu. So this program is going to end, but if you go back onto the page, wherever page you're joining us, if it's Dr. Elias Munsha, if it's Bakwetu page, or if it's Masheke's page, if you can just go back on there, you're going to join Punch for Punch. And joining Masheke Kashambatwa this evening on TV Bakwetu is going to be Honorable Binwell Mpundu. So stay tuned, and hope you enjoy that. That is it for me. God bless you. God bless our country. And I'll see you very soon.